It's wild and absolutely stupid that we have to be here today, a day before Thanksgiving. We're one of the most wealthy countries in the world, and no one should go hungry in America. When this came out, I think a lot of us were thinking this has to be a mistake. These are lawful residents. The law is incredibly clear. Why would the USDA be yanking food benefits away from people? Because we actually genuinely thought this could be a mistake, a letter was sent earlier this month. No response was received. And that's why the lawsuit is being filed here today. It's that simple. If you're an asylum seeker, if you're here as a refugee, if you're here as a lawful resident, if you're here in the United States because of a humanitarian purpose, we should never yank people's food benefits away under these circumstances. We expect, just like in our other suits, to be incredibly successful. Proud to be a lead in this lawsuit being filed in Eugene. The hope is that we'll have a preliminary injunction filed a little bit later today so that we can get in front of a judge as quickly as possible to make sure that we can get this food assistance flowing again.
Boy. So we got to talk about more liberal outrage over President Trump cutting off food stamps, welfare for people who probably should not be getting these benefits, right? And in this story, we got to talk about a couple of blue states, Democrats who are now panicking. They're pissed off because of some of the new federal rules that restrict SNAP benefits for refugees and asylum seekers, aka migrants, okay? The individuals that Democrats, Joe Biden led into the country and then magically made legal, and they got access to welfare. They got access to our social safety net, which is why a lot of this stuff is unsustainable. You cannot have a wide open border and a social safety net, right? Democrats don't seem to be able to understand the basic economics of why that does not work, why you cannot have a robust social safety net and unlimited immigration into a country. They don't understand that, but the president and the Republicans do understand that, and that is why in the big beautiful bill they made these changes in order to restrict SNAP, to restrict a lot of these welfare benefits from being accessed by illegal immigrants and people, migrants or asylum seekers, refugees as well, right? And now the Democrats, they're in full-blown panic because they're going to be losing their funds for refugees and asylum seekers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Well, Oregon is suing the federal government once again, this time over new rules to keep SNAP benefits from anyone who came into the country as a refugee or asylum seeker. Fox 12 Spencer Schott joins us now with more on this lawsuit filed by 22 attorneys general around the U.S. Hey, Spencer.
Yeah, Ward, this is the 48th lawsuit Oregon has filed against the Trump administration in the last 44 weeks. On Wednesday, AG Rayfield was pretty blunt about how he feels about the USDA's latest rule change regarding SNAP benefits.
It's wild and absolutely stupid that we have to be here today, a day before Thanksgiving. We're one of the most wealthy countries in the world, and no one should go hungry in America.
Back on October.
Yeah. That sounds great. We are a very wealthy country, but that doesn't mean that we can feed the world, right? We literally cannot feed the world. Cannot have unlimited migration and a robust social safety net. It does not work. It's not sustainable. Okay, it's not sustainable. Now, here's the thing about these blue states, right? And these Democrats that really get me, right? They want to act like they're being humanitarians about this. And it's like, okay, well, great. If you are such a humanitarian and you love the illegal so much, if you love migrants so much and asylum seekers and refugees, why don't you tax your own citizens and pay for it, right? Why don't all of these liberal nonprofits, all of these individuals, these entities that love these people so much, why is it that you're forcing the rest of the country to pay for something that you feel is a humanitarian thing, right? If you feel like, hey, these people should get free food benefits, right, from the government, then tax your own citizens, right? Tax the Democrats. Tax your liberal constituents in order to provide, right? But no, they want the federal government. They want to tax everybody across the country to subsidize the benefits that they want to give to the illegal immigrants in their states, right? That they attract to their states, okay? And they attract these people to their states so that their states can have larger populations and they get more representation in Congress. So if you cut off the benefits, then you disincentivize people from going to those states specifically. And Democrats don't like that, right? Because they want those individuals in their states, okay? They don't want them in, the liberal neighborhoods and stuff like that. They want them in their states, in the so-called black and brown neighborhoods, away from the rich liberals, but they want them in the states in order to have more quote unquote representation, but yet they don't want to foot the bill for it, right? They want the rest of the country to foot the bill for it, and that's the problem. Okay, you can feed them. You just need to tax your own citizens to do it. Don't tax the rest of the country in order to do it. Tax your own citizens to do it if you want to feed them. But see, if they actually did that, they probably get voted out of office, right? That's the problem.
October 31st, the USDA issued new guidelines that said even if they receive legal status, refugees and asylum seekers can never get SNAP or other federal food assistance. At first, these attorneys general thought that was a mistake, especially because the guidelines were set to go into effect on November 1st, just one day after the announcement. Normally, guideline changes require 120 days notice, but this was not a mistake, and the USDA said in a statement on their website, some alien groups previously eligible for SNAP are no longer eligible. State agencies must immediately apply new eligibility criteria. For households already receiving SNAP, state agencies must review household circumstances of entry and apply these policies at recertification. A USDA spokesperson could not comment on the lawsuit. According to the lawsuit, 10,000 permanent residents in the U.S. could lose their benefits because of this rule change, 3,000 of them here in Oregon.
It's that simple. If you're an asylum seeker, if you're here as a refugee, if you're here as a lawful resident, if you're here in the United States because of a humanitarian purpose, we should never yank people's food benefits away under these circumstances. And that's why this law absolutely had to be filed.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, here's the thing. If you're here as a lawful resident, then you should be working, right? And if you're working, then it is likely that you should not need food assistance, okay? You should not be living off the government if you are here in the country legally. You shouldn't be living off the government. You should be able to get a job, to feed your family, to feed yourself without government assistance. If you require government assistance as an immigrant to be here in the United States of America in order to live, then you probably shouldn't be here, right? You probably shouldn't be eligible to immigrate here, right? We got to bring people into the country. If we're going to be bringing people in the country, we have to bring people in the country that we don't need to take care of, right? We can't bring people in the country that we got to take care of. That doesn't make sense, right? That doesn't add anything. For us, we want to bring people here we don't have to take care of, right? People who are going to help, create jobs or that are going to, work in certain areas where we need labor and stuff like that, but not illegal immigrants, right? People who are, again, going to be net contributors, right? They're not going to be taken from the system, okay? That's the reality of the situation. So it's not just Oregon, but you also have California as well, too. Again, there are 20 plus Democrat states that are suing the government. They also sued the government as well, too, in order to stop the government from being able to see who's on their rolls, right? To see how many illegals are receiving food stamp benefits, right? So they essentially want to sue the federal government from being able to do anything with a program that comes from the federal government. It's a federal government program. But these states act like they're entitled to the funding. And they're not, right? This is not a state program. This is a federal program. But apparently, according to them, they're entitled to the dollars. They're entitled to our tax dollars. Fascinating.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta is pushing back, arguing the USDA's guidelines are inaccurate, sloppy, and uninformed. He says these changes could impact whether tens of thousands of Californians are able to put food on the table.
This guidance reads like someone took notes from the Grinch, taking food from families right as the holidays arrive.
California and 20 other states are suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture over major changes to SNAP eligibility requirements, revisions under the Big Beautiful Bill signed into law over the summer by President Trump. SNAP is known as CalFresh in California and has more than 5.5 million enrollees. The new criteria states some non-citizen populations like refugees, individuals granted asylum, and parolees, including Afghan and Ukrainian nationals, are not eligible for SNAP.
It misstates who's eligible for SNAP and threatens to deprive thousands of lawful permanent residents of the food benefits that Congress guaranteed to them.
Attorney General Rob Bonta says the language is misleading since those non-citizen groups can become eligible if and when they become lawful permanent residents. Bonta also challenges the 5-year waiting period.
The state and food banks have been stepping up to provide more support but the amount of funds here, it's significant.
Bonta says thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands, could lose CalFresh access. The AG also notes this lawsuit comes after a letter was sent to the USDA last week.
To take back the guidance, fix its mistakes, and start over with clear, correct guidance that follows the law. USDA's silence in response tells us everything we need to know.
A USDA spokesperson declined to comment on pending litigation and referred us to the Department of Justice. The DOJ did not respond to requests for comment. Meantime, California Republicans are defending the eligibility guidelines, saying narrowing the pool will save taxpayers money.
Federal taxpayers should not be put on the hook to pay for fraud. The food stamp program is managed by the states. The federal government comes in and writes the checks.
The lawsuit also...
Yeah, and if the federal government is writing the checks, then y'all should be writing the rules too, right? If I'm writing the check, I better be writing the rules, okay? But see, Democrats believe that they are the ones who should interpret the rules, right? They're the ones that should determine eligibility and what they can do with the money and what they can't do with the money. But again, it's not their money. Okay, and that's why I said if California, Oregon, these blue states, if they want to feed these people so bad, tax your own citizens to do it. Tax your own people to do it. But see, they're not going to do that because again, it wouldn't be that popular, right? It's much easier for them to go to the federal government and say, hey, you need to do this or you're a bad person. It's much harder for Democrats to put their money where their mouth is and to tax their own citizens in order to pay for this stuff.
Also points out that states weren't given enough time to implement these new standards. Bonta says states should get 120 days, but only received one. And remember, with the government now reopened, SNAP funding is secure through September 2026. Jenny He, CBS 8.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. This is who Democrats are fighting for, guys. They're fighting for everybody except American citizens, right? They're fighting for the illegals. They're fighting for the people who are non-citizens, the refugees, the asylum seekers, right? They get so pissed and so mad when the federal government says, hey, we don't want benefits that the American people paid for going to people who are not American citizens, right? Going to illegals. Look how fast they take action, right? While their constituents, actual American people, suffer, right? They suffer. But again, Democrats are too busy, again, defending everybody else. It's just so funny. They're in the streets protesting, boo-hoo, whining, and crying about the illegals. They suing the federal government over the illegals. That seems to be the only thing Democrats are good for. That seems to be the only group of people that they're fighting for at this point. It's fascinating. It really is. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.